everyone, it's Carl from Accessibility Explored. I hope you're all doing well. My original plan for today's video was to film a review of Grace's car, but unfortunately the weather isn't on our side at the moment, so we shall have to do that another day. I do apologise. So what I thought it would be good is to take a closer look at our Gold Duke of Edinburgh award that we completed in 2010. So in this video I'm going to talk about our aim or our reason for completing the Gold Duke of Edinburgh, where we went, the equipment we used, just any funny stories if we got any. I think we've got plenty actually. Yeah, just to give you a general insight of what the Duke of Edinburgh Award is all about. So I hope you enjoy. Let's dive right in. To start, we had 4 people in our group, so it was me, Mark, who is my middle brother, Jason, and Greg. So Jason, Greg, and I all have cerebral palsy, different variants of cerebral palsy, but we all have that condition. So Greg and myself both used wheelchairs for this expedition. Jason, however, could walk, so he did. And Mark has a condition called hip dysplasia, which affects his hips when walking, particularly when carrying a lot of weight and whatnot. So my personal reason for completing the Duke of Edinburgh, or the main driving factor for me completing it, was that I'd been told by a few people that, oh no, you can't do Duke of Edinburgh. You know, you're not capable of doing it, etc., etc. So yeah, my main motivation was to prove them wrong. I'm not sure about Mark, Jason, and Greg, but that was my personal reason. So yeah, we put our heads together. We thought, yes, let's do this. We can do 4 days. That's no problem. So then we had to come up with a reason. What was our aim? So each Duke of Edinburgh expedition that you do, whether it be bronze, silver, or gold, has to have an aim. So our aim was to assess the accessibility of the North Yorkshire moors for wheelchair users and less able hikers. And yeah, we went about that by looking at different aspects within the North Yorkshire moors. If certain places had accessible routes, we found that a few did, but there were very few and far between. For example, the North Yorkshire moors, the Dalby Forest, which we went through at the time in 2010, only had 4 kilometres of what they classed as accessible routes. Compare that to the Peak District, which had 9 designated routes, totaling a lot more than 4 kilometres. So, yeah, it was just highlighting the fact that the outdoors is for everyone, really, and there shouldn't be, or there should be as few barriers as possible in the way for people to enjoy the outdoors. So, that was our reason for doing the Duke of Edinburgh. So as I've just said, we completed our 4-day expedition in the North Yorkshire moors. And before that, prior to that, we completed 2 practice expeditions. Our first practice expedition, we did that in Lincolnshire. So we started at RAF Cranwell, we went to RAF Digby, and then we went to Martin Airfield. I have a few photos to put in. And this one is of Greg, Mark, and Jason looking rather fresh because we just started. There are plenty of Greg falling out, so stick around for that. That's always good to see. So the equipment we used on our practice was our everyday wheelchairs, as you can see from the pictures. We did do this in February, so it was very cold, very muddy, and very wet. The wheels got clogged up. It was really hard to push forwards because your casters would dig into the ground. So we had to adapt and tie some rope around the back of the chairs and pull Greg and myself backwards whilst we were pulling our wheels backwards. So this is where I did an epic fail. So when we started on the Saturday, we obviously got dressed and whatnot. I'd put a base layer on, a t-shirt, a jumper, a waterproof coat, and then we were given some aircadet.org t-shirts to wear over the top of our coats for photos and whatnot. So I put all that on, and Muggins here decided not to take any of his layers off during the day. So I was obviously sweating. We're working hard and whatnot. It came to night where the temperature dropped, and all that sweat inside my layers and on my skin and whatnot cooled, and yeah, my body temperature plummeted. I can laugh about it now, but I was put in one of the assessors' cars, and yeah, I almost failed there, but I learnt my lesson the hard way. And that's why layering is so important. So take layers off, put layers on. It slows you down a little bit, but it's totally worth it so you don't get hypothermia or overheat. So yeah, as you can see from the photos, it was quite hard work with the wheelchairs, and our wheels got clogged up with mud quite a lot. Note how young we all look in these photos. Yeah, so that was practice 1. Practice 2 took place at Easter. So my cadet squadron used to go to a place called Champion House in Edinburgh every other Easter weekend, and do adventure training and whatnot. This time, however, we had some better equipment. We'd spoken to the wheelchair manufacturer RGK about borrowing some jungle wheelchairs which they designed for a TV programme which was on BBC called Beyond Boundaries. So yeah, they were very kind and lent us the wheelchairs for a couple of months for us to use for our expeditions and whatnot. So thank you RGK for that. Without you, we probably wouldn't have succeeded. So we did 2-day practice in Edel. One day we were just dropped at a location. Obviously we pre-planned it, but I can't remember where it was. Not far from Edel, and we had to walk our way back to Champion House. And then the second day we walked around a local reservoir. So then fast forward a month or two, and the time had come to actually complete our 4-day expedition. So a lot of planning had gone into this, a lot of help from our officers, from our assessors, and from our support team. Without them, none of this would have been possible really, and without the teamwork of Greg, Jason, Mark and I, we wouldn't have got started at all. So a lot of hard work goes into Duke of Edinburgh, so bear that in mind, but it is completely worth it in the end. The 4-day expedition saw us go to the North Yorkshire Moors. We started in a place called Mount Pleasant. So day 1 was walking from Mount Pleasant to Edinburgh, where we slept over. And then we went from Edinburgh to Newton-on-Rawcliffe. And then from Newton-on-Rawcliffe, we went to Cropton. And then from Cropton, we finished in Luton-le-Hall. So yeah, it was a total of about 52 kilometres over the 4 days. But obviously, it's tougher terrain, it was steeper terrain. There were times where we had to use ropes around trees to pull wheelchairs up the slopes and whatnot. So we tied a rope to the wheelchair, then run the rope round the tree, and then we would pull. So it was a pulley system to reduce the weight of pushing the wheelchair up a slope. So yeah, there were a few obstacles that we came across. We obviously looked at the accessibility. There were some narrow paths, there were some wider paths, there were some fields we went through, bridleways, stuff like this. So yeah, it was a real mix of terrain that we went across. Yeah, there's some photos and videos here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a video in here. We were at a castle. I can't remember where it was. It was downhill. So Jason went ahead and he was recording us coming past down this path. It was quite steep. And Greg had decided not to use brakes. We weren't allowed to use brakes until the end. I went past, fine, as you'll see. And yeah, Greg almost killed Jason. So, well done, Greg. Well done. You maniac. You absolute maniac. So yeah, enjoy this funny clip.
Uh-oh. Oh.
Never break them out, oh shit.
So obviously we had our ups and downs, and we also had our fair share of doing a bit of maintenance on the wheelchairs. As they went over the rough terrain, they got rattled about and whatnot, so we did have to sort them out along the way. These wheelchairs were a lot better. They've got bigger wheels all round, steering and brakes as well, so made it a lot easier to get over the terrain. However, one of the downsides was obviously that they were a lot heavier. But what we decided to do, we decided to put mine and Greg's bags on the front of our wheelchairs, and then we put Mark's and Jason's bags on the back. So they weren't carrying their bags. This was day 2. That helped them out because they didn't have the weight over their hips, so it helped them with their walking and didn't tire them out as much. But what they did do, they would then push us as well as us pushing ourselves. So yeah, it made it a lot easier that way for everyone involved. So one thing we did encounter as well is getting through gates. As you can see in this picture, it was quite hard to reach across and unlatch when sat in a wheelchair, especially with the length of our wheelchairs. You'd have to go side on and etc. to be able to do that. On the whole, the accessibility was pretty good actually. Bearing in mind that we were in all-terrain wheelchairs, I think if you were in your everyday wheelchair, then yeah, there were bits that were good, but a lot of it would be impassable, I think. Do bear in mind as well, this was back in 2010, so things may have changed drastically since then. So yeah, that was our Gold Duke Edinburgh really. Plenty of laughs, a few crying moments, but on the whole, completely worth it. So one thing I love about the Duke of Edinburgh is that you can do it in so many different ways. So we did it walking, you can do cycling, horse riding, sailing, stuff like this. It's very, very diverse and allows a lot of people the ability to complete it. One thing I would say about the Duke of Edinburgh Award, whether it be bronze, silver or gold, is that employers absolutely love it. So if you go for a job and you have your bronze, silver or gold Duke of Edinburgh on your CV, employers look at that because obviously you've gone above and beyond in able to achieve that. You've done more than you need to. You are obviously dedicated in order to achieve it, and that shows, and that shines a really good light on you from an employer's point of view. So there we have it, guys. That's just a quick summary of our Duke of Edinburgh Award. So I'm going to put our highlights video in of the expedition. We made this back in 2010 on Windows Movie Maker, the original the original video editing software that we had. Sorry about the quality. Obviously cameras have come on a long way since then. We did originally have a hi-ho silver lining put over the top of this. It worked really well, but for copyright reasons obviously we can't do that. So here's some royalty free music. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that highlights video, guys. That'll do it for today, and I'll be back next week with another video. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing if you aren't already, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Thank you very much, guys. Bye bye.